Today we're going to be talking about the 12 books that I read for Buzzwordathon for 2024. I had many reading challenges for 2024, as is the case for each and every year, because I like to overextend myself, but I never tend to really finish challenges. I love starting things, but finishing things is a little different. Out of the 20 things that I start on a regular basis, I only finish like 2 or 3. So it just makes me really happy to be sitting here and saying that I actually completed a whole entire challenge. I think that out of all the challenges that I put for myself, other than the reading number, like the goal number, this is the only other challenge that I completed. Did I fall behind on a couple of months? Yeah, I did, but overall I was able to finish all the books. The host for the Buzzwordathon is Books and Lala. I'm sure you know that already, but I don't feel comfortable sitting here and just not saying that she's the host and just continuing on with the books. So let's jump into the books that I read. For January, we had the words of there, and there. I read There Will Come a Darkness. I was so happy to finally be taking this off my shelves and reading it because it's been sitting here for a really long time. I wasn't too fond of this one. In here we follow a world where humanity was governed and guided by prophets, but one day they just decide to go quiet and disappear, but not without leaving behind one last secret prophecy. There will come an age of darkness, and out of this age of darkness will rise a prophet. Whether this prophet will save the world or end it, it's a whole nother story, but there will be a prophet in the age of darkness. It's been 100 years since the prophets have gone silent. And now shit is hitting the fan in the world, and we're following 5 characters that are each on their own path as war is raging around them. I gave this one 3 stars. I was kind of like not really... I liked the writing, I liked the world, and I liked whatever conflict was going on. But at the end of the day, it wasn't something that really grabbed me and I was like, oh my gosh, wow. The characters were nice and strong each on their own, but it wasn't something that stayed in my head, and it wasn't a story that I thought about at all after I closed the book. For February, we had Positive Happy Words. I read Small Angels by Lauren Owen. This was such a creepy, fantastical, magical, eerie kind of read. I loved it so much. Here we're following 2 storylines. The first storyline is present day, and we're following Chloe. Well, they're both semi-present day, but the main one in the present day is Chloe. She's getting married to Sam, and they're getting married in his hometown in this little church that the town has called Small Angels. And then we're also following the storyline of Kate. Kate is Sam's sister, and there's a whole storyline with her and the Gone sisters. Now, the Gone family is a family that lives on the outside of the town, and they are protecting this town from this forest, from these woods that are behind their house. And the church just happens to sit on the property of the Gone family. Now, Kate is the only one ever in the town to ever even get remotely close to the sisters or even to the family. She befriends the sisters, and she just starts living day to day with them. Not living with them, but just spending time with them in the woods, just with these sisters. They're so magical and so weird and so complex. I loved spending time with these sisters. And she finds out what the history is with the woods and this family. She is the only one that really finds out the history of the woods and what lives there, which is just a menacing ghost. And this is what this family is guarding the town from. They've been doing this for decades. They've been successful. They follow rules. They follow a specific routine. But one day, something happens between the girls and Kate, and they fall out, and she ends up leaving and going away and never comes back. But now, obviously, the brother is getting married, and the woods are coming alive again when she comes back. Like I said, I really love spending time with the sisters, especially when we get to spend time in the woods. Some of it was a little bit trippy when we do get into the woods and stuff, but it was just a story that I really loved following. I loved following Kate and the relationship she had with one of the girls specifically. This was just magical. I think about this story often, and I think about the relationship of Kate and these girls in their teenage years. years. I think about their relationship quite often. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. For March, we had character names, and I decided to read The Ballad of Black Tom. I didn't like this one too much. I liked the premise of it. I liked how dark it was, but this had a little bit of cosmicness in it, and I don't tend to gravitate towards cosmic horror. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I'm not going to get into the premise because this is a very short book, and if you go into this one, I advise you go in blind, but I ended up giving this one 3 stars. In April, we had Nature Words, and I read The Silent Woods. Loved this one. This was a slow burn novel about a father and a daughter who are living in the woods. They're on the run. He's raising his daughter in the woods away from everybody. They never go into town. Nobody ever sees them. You don't really know what they're running from, obviously, because that's the point of the book. But they do get food delivered to them or brought to them by his friend. They're staying at one of his friend's cabin, and he brings them food. Obviously, the friend knows, I think, why they're on the run. I can't really remember. One day, I believe somebody shows up around the cabin, and that's where the story shifts and where we get to learn what the big reveal is. When the reveal comes, I was kind of disappointed by it, but the setting and the relationship between the father and the daughter and the whole setting of the woods and just the day-to-day, I loved that aspect of the book so much that the disappointment really didn't taint the book for me. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. For May, we had The Word Ever, and I ended up reading The Summer That Melted Everything by Tiffany McDaniel. I talked about this book in my favorites books of 2024 video. It made me so happy that a lot of you were telling me how you love Tiffany McDaniel too, and her books make you cry as well as they do me. And thank you so much for the recs. I have added the next Tiffany McDaniel books to my TBR. Here we're following a young boy, Sal, as he shows up in this town of Breathitt, Ohio one day after the prosecutor in this town invited the devil to come to his town. He invites the devil, and a little bit after that, Sal shows up. His son, the prosecutor's son, ends up stumbling upon Sal, and they form a friendship for that summer. Now, they don't know where this little boy comes from. They look all around the surrounding towns to see if he has run away. While they're searching to see who this boy is, he ends up staying with the Bliss family. The Bliss family is the prosecutor's family. While he's there, he lets them know that he is the devil. He is who the prosecutor called upon. And so the people don't believe him because he's a little 13-year-old boy, I believe, and things just start happening in the town, and the town is starting to believe that he is who he says he is. This was such a fun read. It was fantastic. It was full of emotion. It was so fun. I just really enjoyed everything about this book. It is the only book on the list that got a 5-star rating. So I would say that probably out of all the books that I read for Buzzwordathon, this is my absolute favorite. In June, we got Repeating Words, and I read Ashes to Ashes, Crust to Crust. This is a cozy mystery series that I love so much. This is the second book in the Deep Dish mystery series. We follow Delilah O'Leary. She is a pizza shop owner, and in the first book, she moves to Geneva Bay to open up her gourmet pizza shop. In this second book, we're following her as she is breaking up with her boyfriend, who was basically financing the whole opening of the store for her and everything. Well, she's broken up with him in the first book, and in this book we just see her trying to make it in the world without the extra financial support of her boyfriend. And so in order to make money for the shop, she ends up entering in the annual culinary contest that they have in this town just to make up the money. But of course, as they're gearing up for this contest, she stumbles upon a murder, and she goes and tries to solve the murder. We follow Delilah O'Leary, her little sidekick Butterball, which is a cat, and he's just this fluffy little delicious chunky cat. And then we also have Detective Capone, with whom she gets together with to solve these murders. I love cozy mysteries. That is no surprise here. I love this one. This is probably my top 5 series. I love it so much. I just need to finish one more book from the series. There's 4 books. I need to finish one more book and I'm done with the series. And I just love Delilah so much. I love her love of pizza. I love pizza. It's one of my favorite things to eat. And so following her while she's making recipes and stuff was just a fun time. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. July, it was Measurement Words, and I read
what did I read?
It Happened One Summer, which is by Tessa Bailey, if I'm not mistaken. This was cute, but the sex scenes, they were just so cringy for me. I don't know what it was. There was another book on this list as well where the sex scenes were just like, I just could not take it. But back to this one. In this one we follow Piper. She is like an influencer, or she has like this persona of being a wild child, and she tries to keep up with that persona. One day she gets a little too wild. She ends up in jail. Her stepdad is sick and tired of this, ends up sending her to run this little bar that their late, or her late dad left them. They didn't know anything about this bar. He ends up telling her, he cuts her off basically and says, go and run the thing and learn how to deal with things yourself and how to make your own money and grow up, basically. Her sister sort of doesn't want to see her go, so she goes with her. Of course, when she gets there, there's like this hunky male running the bar and shit starts happening. I really enjoyed the relationship between Piper and the love interest. I love following them. I love the storyline. I love the whole like cutting her off and go find your way. I loved all of that. But just the sex scenes, I could not deal with them. I gave this one 3 stars because, like I said, I did enjoy the rest of it. For August, we had the word like. I ended up reading Girls Like Us by Christina Alger. I think it's Alger. Not much to say about this one. I didn't give it a rating. It wasn't bad. It was just like a very meh reading for me. We're following an FBI agent that has to go back to her hometown because her dad has died. Now, her dad was the homicide detective in her hometown. So when she goes back to the funeral, she ends up seeing all his buddies from work, cops that she grew up around. And one of them invites her to help out on this murder case that he is investigating. And while she's doing this, she realizes that she's kind of questioning if her dad had anything to do with this case. While I did enjoy the storyline and the characters and stuff, there was just something that wasn't allowing me to grab onto the story. And so I didn't rate it because I think it was just something a little bit more personal. When the writing is good in a book and the story is good, but there's just a detachment on my end, I tend not to rate those books. So you might like this one. Give it a try. September was all about the senses, and I ended up reading Delicious Monsters by Lascelles Sambury. For the longest time, I was saying Leslie. And then one day I sat there and I'm like,
bitch, this says Lascelles. Like,
here we are following 2 different timelines, 10 years apart. Mother and daughter relationships in each different, and this like creepy secluded mansion like in the middle of the swamp. But we're mostly following Brittany, which is the daughter of the present day relationship. She has like a podcast. It's her and her friend. They have like a podcast or something, and they're coming to investigate something about this house because her mother, Brittany's mother, says that this house changed her absolute life when she came to stay there. But the daughter knows of some secrets, or she thinks there's secrets there that her mom is not saying. But while she's there, she's also uncovering the story of 10 years ago of Daisy. Now, Daisy is a daughter in the past. And somehow these 2 stories collide. There's secrets, there's creepiness, and our main character, Brittany, can see ghosts. So this was just so fun. My favorite thing about this was the friendship, that there's a friendship in here. Now, the synopsis doesn't say anything about this friendship, so I will not say anything, but I quite often think about this friendship between Brittany and somebody else. But this was fantastic. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I don't know if I made any sense there. Like, when I try not to talk about a book too much or not give away too much, I feel like I don't make any sense, so I do apologize. In October, we had relationships, and I read Just the Nicest Couple by Mary Kubica. I think this is my first Kubica. I could be completely wrong. If I am, then I'll put whatever book I've read. But I think this is my first Kubica, and I loved this. This was just
a messy book.
It's just a messy bunch of characters. We're following 2 couples, husband and wife, husband and wife. One day, one of their husbands goes missing. I can't remember the names. I'm so sorry. But one of the husbands goes missing, and she goes on this hunt to find out what happened. At first, she doesn't realize that her husband is missing because they sort of had like a little fight. So she thinks that he just left to like vent somewhere. But after like the 5th, 6th day of him not showing up, she's like, what is going on? She has a suspicion that her friend, the wife of the other couple, was the last to see her husband before he disappeared. Now, the other couple is holding on to a secret. This was just so messy. This book right here is why I barely have friends. because people are wild and crazy and disgusting. But I really enjoyed reading this. I was like, what? Ew, no she didn't, no he didn't, well that was stupid. That's all I kept doing throughout this whole book. And then when the ending came, I enjoyed the ending so much. Really enjoyed this. Ended up giving this one 4 stars. November was the word only, and I read The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda. It felt so good finally picking up a Megan Miranda after years of not reading her books. Now watch, I probably read one in 2023 and I don't remember, but I feel like it's been a really long time since I've read a Megan Miranda book. I love this one. And here we're following 8 survivors of a high school bus accident that happens. When we get to the 1-year anniversary of this accident, one of them ends up unaliving themselves. Well, when this happens, they all decide to come together and make a pact that they are going to every year on the date get together sort of to commemorate the accident and to sort of be there for one another to make sure that this doesn't happen again. 10 years has gone by and our main character, Cassidy, I had to look up her name because I couldn't remember. Our main character, Cassidy, she's like done with this. She's like, we just keep doing this. Like, I'm done. She's changed her number. She doesn't want to meet up with them anymore. She's about to tell them this at the 10-year anniversary when she gets an email with an obituary of one of them. Another one has died. And so she ends up going, and this just starts a whole whirlwind of things when they are meeting up for the 10-year anniversary. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was entertaining, gripping. I loved the story. I loved the whole backstory of all of them because we get to know all of them. And I loved going through what happens that night when they were in high school and the accident happened. So 4 stars. Megan Miranda never steers me wrong when it comes to her books. So we're gonna close out this video on a negative note because the book that I read in December was just not my jam. Now I could have switched the books because the book that I read after this one was everything that I was looking for. But I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna cheat. I'm not gonna cheat because this was the book that I read for this. So we're gonna talk about this one. I don't like talking bad about books because this is somebody's work, somebody's words. Somebody sat there for a really long time to write this book. And like I've said a million times, I have a really hard time even writing a sentence, obviously speaking. So for me, for somebody to write a book, it's just so wonderful, so magical. And so I hate talking bad about them. I hate giving bad reviews, but this one was just not for me. For December, we had holiday words and I ended up reading A Holly Jolly Ever After. I gave it 2 stars. Now, I typically go into books blind. The only time I read synopsis is when it's a fantasy book because they're just so big and so complex that I try to give myself a little bit of a clearance before I go in to get confused. But usually I don't read them. I wish I would have read the synopsis because maybe I would have gotten an inkling. But when I ended up reading the synopsis afterwards, I don't think I would have gotten much other than this one specific thing. But I don't think that would have conveyed to me the amount of times that I was going to be reading about this. But I digress. This was so cringy. This was so cringy. Okay, here we're following with Winnie and Callum. They are both actors. When they were young, they acted in this show. And so whatever they do their show, something happens in the tabloids years later with them. But whatever, they're now adults and they each have their own lives. Well, Winnie is like this rule follower Christian girl. I think the movie or the show that they did had like Christian values in them or something. Good girl, married her high school sweetheart. Really, it's just, I hate saying vanilla because I love vanilla ice cream, but she's just very vanilla. And then we have Callum. Callum has been out of the spotlight for a while. He wants to come back. He wants to come back in the spotlight. Winnie is trying to redefine herself. She's trying to remake herself. She ends up getting divorced. These two come together to do one more project together. They end up doing a Christmas corn movie. I don't want to say the word, but oh my gosh, this was just wild. While I really loved reading about their relationship, I enjoyed reading Winnie finding herself. I was like, go girl, go Winnie, because she was finding herself. She was seeing, she was experiencing things that she had never experienced before sexually. So I was like, yeah, girl, go on. But when they would start like talking and doing the things, it was just not my cup of tea. I like the whole resolution. I like the outcome of the relationships that we see, but there was so much much of the sex that it sort of tainted the rest of the book for me, and I couldn't really enjoy what was happening in the background between these two characters and all that. So 2 stars. But right after that, I did read My December Darling, I believe it's the name of the book, and that book gave me everything that I was looking for in a holly jolly ever after. So those were all the books that I read for Buzzwordathon in 2024. I am currently working on the 2025 one. I'm so happy that Kayla included the 2 parts this year where we do covers and also buzzwords. Let me know if you participated and what you read for this reading challenge. Let's chat books in the comment section down below. As usual, these books will be linked in the description box, and also check down there for all my other social media so that we can connect. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.